Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions, 4 p.m. BST on a Wednesday afternoon. Cheryl won't be happy about a Wendy being around. George Maressa, Brent Zaradnik, and the good Dr. Ellis Whitehead is joining me. The brain, Brian Johnson, we are awaiting his arrival. Today we're going to be talking about DSP, all things DSP. Should you be doing this? We'll get into some of the technical stuff as well on the show. But George, kick things off. Let people know who you are.
Sure. So, hi, I'm George. I'm the founder of Clear Ads, and we help Amazon sellers and also those who want to go into the Amazon ecosystem through Amazon DSP and Amazon's pay-per-click. We do dabble with Google Ads. That's where we kind of started. And yesterday was yesterday or Monday was our 10th birthday. So we celebrated that sitting at home.
Congratulations.
Wow, great.
10 years in the game and there's not a single grey hair on you. You must be doing a good job.
I have a few.
You do? Do you use L'Oreal for men?
No, I don't.
No. And here is the brain, Brian Johnson. Welcome to the show. Sorry, George, you want to finish off your introduction? We'll go to Ellis, then Brian, and then we'll finish up with Brent and we'll get on with the show.
That's all from me. That's it, yeah. So.
Cool. Ellis?
So Danny and I, we started Databrill a few years ago. It's almost 3 years ago. So George, you've been at this for a lot longer. Danny's of course been doing other advertising outside of Amazon too, and longer than that. But longer than I have. We started Databrill based on a bunch of research and statistics, applying all kinds of science to our advertising on Amazon, and we figured this was good stuff and started offering it to others, and we've been going ever since.
Excellent. Brian?
Sorry, I'm assuming we're doing the introductions on this one. Sorry.
Yes, sorry, yeah, I know you just joined, so yeah.
Absolutely. So, so I've been in Amazon advertising space for a little over 5 years now. We started our agency, Canopy Management. We're on our third year now. So, great progress over the years.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have grown. I mean, how many clients? You got close to 100 clients now, or if not more, right?
We're over 100 now. We're trying not to get massive, but at the same time, we also have a very high employee to client ratio. So we're very much hands-on, very human-based.
Yeah, cool. Brent?
Yeah, hey, first time back on Seller Sessions in 2021. Thank you, Danny. Early in the year, I might say, so very happy about that.
Yes.
Right.
I've been running AMZ Pathfinder since mid-2015, and we do pretty much the same stuff, ad management, North America, EU, and now we're expanding to some creative services this year as we find that to be more and more important, especially for all these new ad types that Amazon continues to roll out and expand upon that involve some sort of creative element.
Cool. That's really interesting. That's good to hear that you're doing that.
Yeah, starting to be necessary.
Cool. So let's get straight into it. You know, we like to get fast on Seller Sessions, straight into the content. So let's just kick off with, everyone knows what DSP is, or they should know what DSP is. There's previous shows that we covered on it. But the important thing we're going to be talking about now is avoiding the shiny object syndrome. When is it right time to do DSP? And then we'll get into the more technical stuff later. I think it's really important as Amazon business start their new year. They've got a nice bit of cash coming from Q4 and they're looking to grow their business down additional channels, but there are specific clients and reference points of when you should do DSP and when it's not good for your business. So kicking off with you, George, give me some key points of who's the perfect customer for DSP.
Okay, sounds good. So I think initially you'd need to have the foundations in place before even PPC your products. So ensuring that you've got really good high quality images, very good content, your products stand out and are unique in the marketplace, whether that is offering, price, ingredients, whatever it is. Once you have that in place, then PPC is the next step. So whenever anyone approaches us about doing any form of Amazon DSP, we don't take anyone on until, especially if they're an endemic advertiser, which is someone who advertises on Amazon, we don't take on any DSP work until we look at their pay-per-click advertising. So you want to ensure that you have everything possible built out, that you've scaled to the max, and that you've got your products working as well as they can be working through PPC before you delve into display advertising. Now that display ads are also now available across Germany, the UK, as well as the US, of course, it's important that you dabble in those areas first, because they're less cost intensive and also easier to navigate around before you come to any type of agency, because that will cost a fair amount to even test DSP for your company.
Yeah, I mean, I think we discussed it before. I mean, you've got to be looking at doing 100K a month realistically before you start to think about it, because obviously the upfronts are going to be quite costly. You're going to need 3 months or so to really start to look to dial in to see whether it's worth spending the money, minimum spends. I mean, you can start at 5, but 10K is more applicable if you want to get the data out that you're going to need to see where it's worthwhile. So I think with DSP, the initial investment is very, very high compared to spending money on sponsored products and everything else. Ellis, what other key points would you say?
Well, George covered it pretty well. So George, you've had experience with a lot more niches than we have so far, and the ones where we've seen some very different results in different niches. Not sure what the experience is for you guys, but for example, we have one client who did really well. He's like in the expensive beauty product range, and his DSP does great. I mean, it has the better returns than PPC. I mean, sponsored products, which is normally kind of the heavy hitter among them. And then we have others like in supplements where it just doesn't work. And then there are others where it works just fine, like in say medium-priced sporting kind of goods. And I wouldn't be able to really generalize across the niches yet, because this is a limited number of niches that we've looked at. But we're definitely seeing niche trends, or at least product trends within niches.
Yeah.
So that's to be considered as well.
Cool. Brian, what's your take? You've got, being the size of your agency now, like George as well, I mean, out of all the agencies sitting around the table, I think you've got the largest in terms of the amount of customers. What percentage of your customers have shifted to DSP? And what are the standouts, in your opinion, when you're talking to your current client base? It's like we all do, right? It's like, okay, you're not doing DSP yet. A lot of our customers will come to us and say, are we a fit? I mean, where do you see the fit lies for your existing customers?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely. We certainly. I mean, it's similar to what obviously what Ellis and George already brought up, is that we're going to be selective as far as who we offer it to. Typically, it's going to be to our existing clients. We certainly have plenty of conversations with new clients where we're saying, hey, this could be something we're going to consider, but maybe not out of the gate, not right away. Generally, what we're looking at is maybe 30 to 40,000 in monthly ad sales. Translating over to, I think, what you were saying as far as 100,000 in total sales, I would guess. Yeah,
across all markets.
I do completely agree that the ones that not every client should be offered it or should be given it to. So even if it's like, say, I mean, I don't know where we're at right now. I would say maybe only 15% of our clients actually leverage our DSP services, and parts because we want to make sure that we're going to be a success when we actually start working on it, right? So we have to pre-qualify, and that's kind of a lesson learned, because with DSP, of course, is it's going to be a lot more. The less aware that the client is of who their target audience is, the more research that we have to do on our front end, the longer it takes in order to identify who that specific target audience is and how to narrow the focus of those ads. And therefore, it's going to be more expensive. So it kind of depends on what is the client coming in with as far as really understanding the focus of their message and their marketing to a specific audience, or if they're just kind of like shotgunning out still. If they're still shotgunning, and just trying to get everybody as much traffic as they can possibly get, then the time is much better spent in Amazon's traditional ads than advancing up to DSP until it's a little bit more mature.
Yeah, Brent, what generally, you've heard what everyone else is saying around the table. Give some other key points that people need to look out for, whether they're going to be relevant to run DSP.
Yeah, I would say a couple things come to mind in addition to the points already raised. The first one would be a brand should have significant marketing budget available in a very long-term perspective. DSP is not suitable for companies that are looking for something to work in like 3 to 5 weeks, or they might be accustomed to sponsored products where they start a campaign and after $300 or $400 of spend and a couple days, they say, okay, we can start to track with some of these leading indicators where things are going. It takes a lot longer to ramp up a DSP setup. I would also say brands that have aggressive growth targets. That's what I meant to say. That are not currently meeting them and are looking for a new channel. It's probably suitable for them. So there may be clients that we have, that you guys work with, and maybe they do have X number of revenue and X number of ad revenue, but they're actually not really focused on aggressive growth at the moment. It may be due to seasonality. It may be due to the needs of the business owners or their kind of personal goals or whatever other combination of things. So if they're not meeting aggressive growth targets, it's a time to look at that. If they're not really focused on that, then maybe DSP is not for them. Yeah. And I would also say one more thing, that the look and feel of Amazon when you use a DSP and you're using it, let's say endemic, like George mentioned, for the purpose of this conversation, let's stick to that for now, is just people who are already selling on Amazon, businesses that are already active on Amazon. You're maintaining that Amazon look and feel all around the internet. So that's an interesting kind of way to look at it too. It's like with the dynamic e-commerce ads and the responsive ones, like you really have this Amazon feel to it. And so people are really familiar with that, no matter if they're on other websites. And that is an interesting kind of selling point to also accentuate.
Yeah, so I suppose with DSP, it's the very last thing that you should be adding. Once you need to have made sure that, one, you've dialed in everything on the other available ad formats through Seller Central, etc., right? So brand ads, etc. But it is the very last step that you take. Or it could be something where your ads are not working, but you've got good, you're grandfathered in on Amazon, you've got good brand recognition, as seen on TV and stuff like that. And you go, okay, why don't we try this? We've got a war chest of money here. So I would say they're the only two reasons why you would use DSP. Fully dialed in, or it's something that you do when you've got a war chest and you've got brand recognition, to see if that is the DSP platform would work for your business. Yeah, no, George?
Well, I'm on mute. So one other very kind of specific, kind of very rare situation we find is if you need to educate the market on what you sell. So if you have something that's completely unique and so different, and you understand who your market is, and let's just say you've done Facebook ads and you've nailed it and you understand who buys your products often, then you can go down that route with DSP, and you can be very specific about the type of person who sees your ads. So that's another time to consider dabbling in DSP.
Yeah. Throw over to you, Brent. Let's talk some ad formats. Do you want to run through the DSP platform, the key formats that you guys use at your agency?
That looks to be frozen. I'll add something to that, George, and we've seen that too with one of our clients who...
Brent's not frozen.
I'm like
he
one of those.
I'm
just one of those twig bugs that moves like this and then it freezes. No, Ellis, I'll jump in afterwards. Go ahead.
Okay, so I was just saying we have one of our clients, just following on what George was saying, who also does that. I mean, they use DSP exclusively for brand awareness, and that's an interesting, it's an interesting approach to it. And they figure everything else is where they want to, maybe generate profits or do their rankings, but DSP in their mind just for awareness.
Well, it sounds to me like they understand the concept of full funnel really well, because that is, I think, the biggest problem that we face is educating clients, prospects, just people in the market about the concept of full funnel. Everyone is so dialed in with, I put this much money in, I get that much money out. All I care about is ROAS. And that's also a mindset that I think is, I would say like part of the Amazon seller mindset that a lot of people we work with come from private label. But as they start to scale up, as they get bigger companies, as you talk to larger enterprises, they understand what that means at a larger scale with things like awareness, brand consideration, how many times someone has to see an ad before it really gets drilled into their head. So when they do finally search,
which is I think is about 8 or 10, isn't it? 8 to 10 touch points, I think it is, across devices.
Something like that. The one stat I saw pulled out recently is that Amazon says, shoppers on Amazon's marketplace take 5-6 days before they buy something, before they're first searching around. Like, let's say they're starting at top of funnel. And that's, of course, in their marketplace. But imagine how much longer it is for someone who's browsing around on the internet in general. And maybe you reach them, and then 3 days later, they see your ad on the marketplace itself.
And can I just add one thing? One example we've had recently is a certain products that you're not allowed to advertise through Amazon PPC. There is a chance you can advertise it through DSP. So we've had one company who sell adult stuff, and they managed to slip through DSP, and it's been absolutely phenomenal for them. So we're not able to do, we're only able to do sponsored brands through sponsored ads, and then we just, everything else is through DSP.
But you would say that the targets, as far as the sites where you could run the display ads, is going to be restricted on through DSP.
Yeah, so if it's restricted on PPC, there's a chance on DSP it just gets completely approved.
But the ad inventory itself, though, George, with DSP, is that
I would think it'd be still restricted ad inventory, because you're going to have age restrictions too.
No, but then you can have age restrictions, so it will restrict it to who it shows your ads to, because it can do that automatically through the targeting. But we have had an instance where we do that. So there's been 4 or 5 people who've approached us with a similar situation. Out of the lot, 1 got approved and went through, and we're able to advertise their products.
Did you have a client for a while doing PPE stuff as well, George? Whilst the restrictions were in place, you were able to run some PPE ads.
So when it comes to PPE, sanitizers, yes, and we absolutely creamed it through the DSP. Through the gloves, we attempted a number of times, and we never got any ads approved for it.
Yeah. Okay, back to the original question before I froze. Brent, let's talk through some of the ad formats. What's your favourite ad formats in terms of DSP for return on investment? Like generalising, and obviously product specific.
I would welcome everyone else to assist me with this, because I think that we use just a handful of the formats that are available. Quite honestly, there's more out there. Like, we don't do OTT, which is definitely for clients that have a lot more money, and like some bigger video placements, like things on Amazon devices. Those are probably all great, but we don't run most of those. In terms of creative types, the Amazon specific ones, which is kind of, I think, one of the advantages of DSP. So responsive creative and dynamic creative. We are big fans of video, especially if we use percentage watched as like a metric. So, if you're targeting a wider audience through a consideration awareness campaign, you're educating a lot of people if they've watched the first 25, 30 seconds of a video that you've put out to like a large audience. That's great. That's wonderful. The CPMs for those are way more costly, but we think that's like a good investment and worth it. And then, anything that's retargeting or loyalty based, where you're targeting existing customers, is going to have a great ROAS. But yet again, going back to the education, that you have to, when you're reporting to clients, I think, break it out by different stages of the funnel and say, well, this is a consideration order, and its KPI is this, and this ROAS is from this order, and that's the point of this campaign. Those things are better broken out.
Brian, some of your favorite?
Yeah, I would say similar is that the loyalty ads are probably the number one that we focus on pretty heavily, just because we see quite a bit of return on that. Kind of a comment that Brent had made earlier is the difference of perspective between who runs the more expensive ad types, including, those within DSP, but including things like, the OTT and the video content ads. those are more expensive, and those are going to be more of the enterprise level or, national chain kind of, the bigger brands that have deeper pockets, bigger budgets, and they understand what that kind of programmatic advertising will do compared to, like, say, the 3P sellers that are kind of like, hey, I'm bootstrapping this. And so what kind of ROI can you get me in the next week? It's a completely different perspective that you have to do a certain amount of education on that. So some of it is testing and showing by example to a client as far as here's what we recommend for you. And frankly, just on Amazon's, traditional, standard ad platform, most brands are still only using about 20% of the ad space that's even available. They're still focused primarily on, keyword ads, for instance. And, in some niches, you're going to get crushed. You're going to get killed as far as keyword ads these days. And so you really have to adapt to more of the image and display ads, both through traditional Amazon ads as well as DSP and retargeting. It's more visual, it's more engaging, especially if you actually take the time and care about your content and the message that you're putting out there. Frankly, it's less about the ad type and more about what message you're trying to get across, and how are you taking any time and actually to try to craft your message and the perception to your target audience, rather than just saying, I'm just going to throw my product up there and just hope something works.
Yeah. Alice, do you want to add anything here? Mike is muted.
I don't really have anything to add to what's already been said about DSP, but following on what Brian was saying about different kinds of ad types, we're actually refocusing in currently on keyword ads now in January, because we've seen a huge drop-off or a huge increase for a lot of our clients in Amazon's willingness to give us the impressions for keywords. So, there were some clients where the impressions, like through November and December, were just going really down. And then since after Christmas, it's really been up again. And so that's, it's probably just some change in the landscape, maybe a lot of people pulling back on their advertising post-Christmas. Perhaps they've run out of stock. Perhaps it's just, a business decision. But at the moment, we're seeing a lot more potential there. Who knows how long that'll last? Might just be for another, couple months.
Yeah. One thing we'll carry on with the rest of it. I want to get into more technical stuff in a minute, but one thing we should probably make people aware of is that obviously Amazon's going to push out and say, why don't you do DSP and let us manage it for you? Brian, let's talk some horror stories.
The general rule as far as Amazon running it, first of all, the buy-in, if you will, the gateway is they sometimes they put it on sale, but it's about $35,000 in ad spend a month. Sometimes they throw it on sale for 15, 20 grand a month, I think. But Amazon likes to, it's almost like billboard advertising, where they are very proud to be able to report back to their client and say, hey, look how much visibility we got. We got you 50 million impressions, and isn't that awesome? Yeah. To which you come back and say, well,
my ROAS is in the toilet. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like, yeah, well, like what's my profitability? And then it's like, isn't that visibility awesome? You won. You're a success. It's kind of like, no, you just spent my money. That's all. You're a success. But what's it actually mean to my bottom line? So I think that's probably the biggest difference that I've seen between Amazon in-house team managing DSP for a client versus an agency. The agencies,
the agencies are working for the customer, and Amazon are working for Amazon, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
there's a bias, absolutely. And so a lot of us have to focus in, every single one of us has to focus in on, okay, ultimately that customer, that client is going to ask us, great, how much profit did I make out of this? How much did my sales grow year over year? We have to be able to answer that. And so that's our focus, unlike, like you said, Amazon is biased. You're like going like, hey, we can spend your money. We can get you everywhere. Isn't that awesome? And that's more tuned towards those brands that just have kind of throwaway billboard budget, if you want to call it that, where it's like, yeah, we spend $100,000 a month on different advertising channels, and we can't really measure the return on it. It's like, that doesn't work for us, as an agency. It's like, we can't just say, it's like, yeah, meh. It doesn't work that way. We have to actually quantify it.
George, talk about targeting competitor ASINs as well. You've got some stuff that you do, which is quite interesting. Do you want to turn your mic on? Everyone keeps muting and forgetting.
Yeah. So when it comes to targeting competitors, it's probably one of the biggest benefits I see in the ASIN tool, because you can be really laser focused as to who you want your ads to serve off, and it would follow that person around Amazon and also outside of Amazon. So if someone has clicked on and looked at one of your main competitors' product and haven't yet purchased, you can have your ad serve back to them without your competitors even knowing. They'll just think that your ad just seems to serve wherever they go, and they can't really see where the customer goes. So in essence, you can follow that person around to where they go. Now, there are restrictions with it. So the list size has to be, the product that you're trying to target has to be has to have a large enough audience for you to actually serve ads to them. If that isn't the case, you can always bung them together with a few other competitors and serve ads to them. So some of the, especially in the supplement space, what we've done in the past is we targeted people who might have, target people who bought vitamin C supplements 30 days ago or 60 days ago, and we served ads back to them, or people who have purchased those vitamin D supplements 30 days ago or 60 days ago, and we served ads back to them to encourage them to try a new brand out. So we're doing that with a few companies now, and it's working really well, especially in January. So it's really picked up. So that's some of the things we're doing. We've been very focused and gone for very particular colors of products as well, just in case someone has a fondness with those colors. And some of those tests have come out really well and others haven't. So with the competitor targeting, you could be really, really focused. And just to quickly touch on the OTT ads that was mentioned earlier, which is an enterprise product, you can do it through DSP, the OTT ads, but Amazon tend to push it themselves. So I'm sure a few sellers last year got invited by Amazon to join that OTT ads program, which is at $10,000 a month. You could do a DSP, and it's a lot more focused because you can actually use the competitor targeting. So it could be a lot more laser focused with the awareness. I know it does argue the fact of, are you going to get enough traffic for it, but it can be tested through DSP. And you can even go down the route of anyone who's watched certain programs with certain actors on Amazon Prime. You can also target that particular audience with an OTT video ad.
Gotcha. Brian, actually Brent, and then we'll come to Brian. Putting campaigns in flight, you decide, a customer comes on board, you decided that you're going to go the route of DSP, starting with you, Brent. Give us an idea of some of your strategies and approach to that.
Yeah, sure. I think what George just mentioned, we would call like conquesting campaigns. Do you name them the similar or same thing, George, like conquesting? Every agency has different names.
We just call them, we're more simple than you, Brent. We just call them competitor campaigns. So.
Oh, okay. Well, you can abbreviate it with competitor, conquest, whatever. But the point is, that's a great format to try. And I think that most of us would probably agree, like the easiest thing to iterate on and build at first is retargeting. And that's cool because you can prove like, hey, this is a nice ROAS. But ultimately you want to educate the client about like moving away from a ROAS focus and say, well, actually, these other things are what we should try to build. So, first initially, let's look at loyalty campaigns. Let's look at cross-selling between the catalog if possible. Let's target your big bad competitor that you hate. Let's go after them. But then let's move further and further up the funnel and kind of get you more accustomed to understanding, well, what we're doing with these campaigns is basically draining the funnel, but we need to fill the funnel. So we need to come up with campaigns that are going to earn us those detail page views, those impressions.
So you work in reverse then. You start with the closest to the final conversion and then build it up so that you can show some results, yeah?
I think that's probably the best approach. And that means that they have to have that hero product or products that have enough sessions, right? This is one thing that George has taught me a lot about over the years is this is the minimum you should look for this. And when you combine these two, you get another, the audience can be bigger. And same thing with competitors. If maybe you can't build an audience for those who have looked at a competitor page, how about Sims, similar products, or people who have searched for it even. And that's getting further and further up the chain, but that's still representative of some sort of intent. And that's what DSP is all about. You can't inside of Advertising Console understand people's telegrammed, intent. But you can do that in DSP.
Yeah. Brian, anything to add to that? The way that you set campaigns up, put in flight?
No, I mean, I would say that probably to kind of reiterate, just kind of echo. I think actually George had mentioned it, and that was as far as the retargeting ads based off of replenishment. A lot of the products that seem like they were the most successful, the ones that have a normal are consumable products that have a replenish date on it, and so that is something that we will start out right away with, is just try to put the ads in place that are getting the existing customer to come back and say, hey, it's time to order the same product again, increasing brand loyalty, keep them within the brand, keep them within the product longer, so that they just kind of build a habit of ordering that same product. And so it's usually one that I'll lead with when it comes to DSP. And then some of those attack ads, some of the conquest or I don't know,
competitive
Caribbean pirate, ad or whatever the case is, as far as like just increasing market share, I'm always a fan of that. But
it costs money.
Kind of just look at the basics,
Yeah. Ellis, your approach to optimizing DSP campaigns?
That's a big question. I don't know that anything that I could say in a reasonable period of time comes to mind. You need to look at the metrics. Depends on what kind of campaign it is.
What I meant is, how long would you leave it to wait in between? Because it's kind of different to the platform setup, different to normal working with sponsored ads, etc. Because you have to let the data together. I know we do at the agency anyway, but it's not as straightforward, is it? Once you put campaigns in flight, you just need to work around the system. Sometimes it's best to leave it, etc. So that is more the angle.
Okay. So, there's actually in some ways maybe less difference than even what you have to do is you have to give it enough time for Amazon's AI algorithms to start doing something sensible with the DSP campaigns. And so you just can't rely on having great results in the first week or two.
Yeah.
But if you're testing something in sponsored brands or sponsored products or whatever, you often need to give it a week or two there as well. It's just not necessarily so out of control, or it's more comprehensible. You have more control and more insight into what's happening in the others. But you just don't have enough data yet to really assess what to do next in sponsored brands and sponsored products necessarily after just a day or two or a week anyway either. But you definitely need to wait longer. And for the DSP.
Yeah. George, any tips there when optimizing DSP campaigns?
Yeah, so when you create certain audiences, it's about testing. It's how much can you test, and whatever target you have in place, whether it's conversion rates, whether it's number of add to carts, whether it's click-through rate, whether it's just engagement in any other metric, if you're hitting those targets, questions that come up to us is, how can we clone this and make more of this type of line item to test with different ads? So one thing you could do is you could create overlap reports. So you can put those audiences you've made or audiences that you've picked and have worked well into something called an overlap report. And then it will tell you other audiences that live within Amazon that are similar to what you have. So it's similar to what you've been serving your ads to. So, and you'll be surprised at the data that it brings out. You'll find that those who look at product A tend to also look at product B. And then later on, when you dig a bit deeper, you kind of find the match, and then you're able to test that too. Another thing you could do in terms of the optimization is finding out the different types of images within the dynamic ads that perform the best. So if you find that one particular ad size, because it fits in one slot, performs well, you can actually create custom creatives, and that would involve getting a third party in place. And whoever you decide to use Amazon DSP with or whatever, if you need someone, let me know. I'll send you this guy. He doesn't work for me. He's awesome. He creates all these images for us, for DSP. And you can have an ad serve to there, or even testing ads serve to storefront, and then you can have a unique storefront code URL which you can get from insights in the storefront, and you can put that in, and that can track its performance too. So there's a whole range of things you can do when it comes to optimization. But just to add a little bit more, Danny, in terms of, we follow a structure when it comes to build. So we look at, the first step is those who have bought our brand, they've invested in our brand. What else do we have that they might want to buy? I think Brian touched on it earlier about the loyalty part, and targeting them. That's the first place we'll go. Then we'll go into remarketing, and that's remarketing within Amazon and then also in the open exchange. And then we'll go into we go into brand analytics and go to market basket analysis, and it gives you ideas of where the conversions have come from through PPC. And so if someone's bought one of your products, they also bought 3 random products, right? But a lot of people do the same thing. You can create cross-selling campaigns, again, within Amazon and outside of Amazon. And then we would use the overlap reports to find out, okay, out of everything we've done, where is there awesome audiences that we can target for certain products, then build them out. And then obviously and that's kind of the lower funnel. And then we'll move up to, already created audiences. And then we go into kind of awareness and just look at those already created audiences, but maybe outside of Amazon, or certain demographics, ages that we want to target. I'll stop talking now.
No, it's fine. I was going to say we're going to wrap soon, so I thought the best thing to do is we'd do a bit of a count back of some of the key components. Like from memory, we're talking 5 to 10k ad budget a month. Should be realistically doing 100k across all marketplaces in terms of turnover. Strong brand, and the ability to cross sell across 2, 3, 4 products as well to give you a better chance. 3 months. Realistically, timeline to give you to see whether you can get DSP, or you or the agency gets DSP to dial in and work. What other bits have I missed? Key components is retargeting ads, like lowest kind of, what's the word for it? Least path of resistance is going to be competitor ads as well. What have I missed in terms of key things?
One thing to add that comes to mind, George mentioned creative and touched on that. I think creative and budgeting and understanding how you're spending on DSP are probably the 2 most important things. And actually budgeting allocation, the bid levels you set for CPMs, these things are fairly complicated and they're not easy, actually. It's like a constant struggle pretty much for us. And I think anyone who's running DSP at any kind of scale is like, how do we get the pacing correct? How do we allocate money to the right line items, and how do we set it? Because the truth is, like, if you have wide enough targeting and you kind of like slip up with the budget, you could spend a tremendous amount of money in no time.
You've got to be careful. Yeah.
So you have to make sure that stuff is dialed in, and that continues to be difficult for us actually, but is part of the knowledge that I hope that we've learned at this point that makes it a bit better.
Yeah, Brian.
Yeah, well, I was just going to add on that is kind of an extension of what Brent was saying, is that part of the reason that it's more difficult to dial this in within that 3-month period of time is not just what the value proposition of the product is to the consumer, what's in it for them, which is something I've been hammering quite a bit the past couple of months, as far as really being able to, do the listing optimization and really express what benefit is this product going to provide for you in order to increase conversion rates. But to Brent's comment, as far as the additional difficulty on that of really dialing in the spend, a lot of that has to do with simply just poor analytics. It's like we've got a lot of targeting options, but then our reporting, our attribution on the back end needs some definite upgrades, hopefully in 2021, that'll allow us to better fine tune DSP ads, especially. It can be extremely powerful. It's not up to par with some of the reporting that we might get through other ad channels.
Yeah. Cool. George, best way to reach you?
Great. Before that, just 2 other key things. One is, are you winning the buy box? If you have issues with winning the buy box, and you can check this through business reports, and you've got less than 70%, 80%,
don't go near it. Yeah.
Don't go near it, because we don't go through SKU levels when we're advertising on DSP. It's ASIN level. So in essence, you could be paying for your competitors' advertising. So that's one thing. And then I think my brain's just gone blank. So anyway, so you want to reach me, it's clearads.co.uk. Bung a message on there, or put George at the front of that, and then the @ sign, and that'll go straight through to me. So that's the best way to reach you.
Cool. Brian?
Canopymanagement.com is the agency. That's probably the most direct way to reach us.
Superb. And Brent?
amzpathfinder.com/Danny. No, just kidding. We don't have that URL set up. You can also email me hello@amzpathfinder.com.
Cool. Ellis?
Reach me through Danny.
Cool. So Danny at databrill.com or visit databrill.com. Sharon Evan will be back here as host again tomorrow. I'll be back here Tuesday. Isabella's Monday. So new format is Monday is Isabella. Tuesday and Wednesday is myself. And then Thursday is Sharon Evan. If you want to give feedback on the show of the new format, let us know. Drop me an email to danny@sellersessions.com. Thank you for your time. Take care of yourself and the family. Don't forget Sharon's back here 4 p.m. BST tomorrow. And we are out.